Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler here with Jordan Kurtz, Inner Masculine Live, Inner Game Group. Tim is on a cruise, or he's getting ready to leave on a cruise right now. So he's in Florida on a plane. So just me and Jordan today, but this is going to be a very interesting show because this shows you why people who hurt others are actually pretty damaged, wounded, tortured souls themselves. We're going to, case study is Jada Pinkett Smith. She gives an interview today where she kind of bears all, and we'll talk, we'll show the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to pick it apart. We'll look at her Wikipedia. On her Wikipedia page, it talks about her family background. So we're going to go into that too, because she comes from absolutely, quintessential daddy issues, but also a drug addict mom. And so, we're going to dive in and see what that is all about. And it's not to excuse her behavior. She's committed adultery. She's caused a lot of damage to her own family. But it's to show, for those of you who've had people that have hurt you, is to maybe show that these people are just wounded souls themselves. And for me, when I was trying to forgive, my mom, for you guys know your background, that's one of the things that helped me forgive her, is say, oh man, she's had a ton of trauma in her life and she's just trying to cope with it. She coped with it in a very maladaptive way that caused my depression and all other sorts of stuff. But, that's how it is. It helped me, let's look underneath the water and look at the entire iceberg, not just what we see on the surface. But before we dive in, Jordan, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm Jordan Kurtz with Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis. Been doing hypnosis for about almost 10 months now. I'm having a lot of success. I help you end your limiting beliefs to then unlock your full potential.
And I'm curious, how is that doing hypnosis? How's your experience been, Jordan?
It's been really good. I learned a lot. I've learned a lot about how to help myself. I think you and I would probably both agree that the reason we can help other people so much is because we've done the work on ourselves to make ourselves feel better. So,
yeah, faced our own wounds and healed them. And you've told me some stories of your clients. Clients, 1 session, 2 sessions, big shifts. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very good. And so Jordan, good friend of mine, and my hat's off to you. You found this and then you took it another step. You're like, I'm going to learn this and do it and help others. And now you are. And that is awesome. Amazing. Now, P-Dubs, welcome to the show, sir. P-Dubs, salute. And for you guys who want to experience the subconscious reprogramming, subconscious optimization, the internal healing of subconscious trauma that we do, you can now get a taste of it absolutely free. You can actually up-level and change your life in powerful ways, absolutely free. And you may ask how? Well, you see in the bottom left of my screen, you can go there, school.com, MindChrysalis -7138. There are a lot of resources on this website. It's all free. You got a community you can interact with. By the way, we do you see the calendar here. We do 2 webinars a month. The next one coming up down here at the bottom, Monday, Toxic Shame, the great granddaddy. So you can ask me questions on the webinar. My guess is probably 10 people or so will show up. This has been up, I think, less than a month at this point, but the community is already very active. So small groups mean if you guys got one-on-one questions, we're going to be here, helping you out. But wait, there's more. Look at this. Free courses, there's self-hypnosis audio. There's courses, video instruction on how to use it. There's worksheets. This is all free, guys. So you can join the community, interact with others, but also there's enough material here where on your own, you will most likely, some people get stuck on stuff, but most people can substantially upgrade their internal world for free. Try this out. It's super, super powerful stuff. We're giving you a big chunk of it, no charge, access to webinars twice a month, all the other good stuff. MindChrysalis.com, join for free, become part of the community. So we're going to dive in on Jada Pinkett Smith. First, I want to show you guys a little background about her. So here's the Wikipedia page about her family life. We want to see the entire iceberg, not just what is above water, on these people who are hurtful to others. And she has been very hurtful to her family. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it. But look at her upbringing here. Dad got mom pregnant in high school. And they married for a few months and then split up. And she was raised without her father. Grandmother and mother raised her. And if you see at the bottom here, she was a drug dealer in high school. But her mother was a heroin addict, or had been, you know. So there's a lot of trauma there. You're raised without your dad, no masculine figure in your life, and your mom's a heroin addict. It's going to cause problems, you know. So we want you to understand the background, because this interview, she's going to bear all. Now, she may be some stuff. It's kind of an interesting case with her. I think some things she's very, very honest about, other things maybe not, but it's a very good insight nonetheless. Jordan, go ahead.
Well, I've watched videos. Some people. Oh, I hear some echo. Is that my end?
You're okay.
Okay, now it's
okay on my end.
I was going to say that some people have said that she's like therapy cosplaying, like she knows the right things to say to sound like she's a therapist, but she doesn't actually believe them. So as we watch this clip, I'm sort of framing it from that lens, because people have said that she's been saying these same, I'm on the healing, I've now healed for like the last 8 years. And so they're saying, oh, she's been claiming to have gone through this process like continuously over and over again. So people are wondering, is this real? Is this just her? Because she says a lot, like we're going to get into it. She says a lot of the things that I agree with, but I'm wondering if she's just figured out how to speak like someone who's figured this out, like if she really believes it. So my BS meter is going to be on high alert today to decide whether or not it's legitimate or not. But
yeah, now I'm going to point some things out before we get started. Number one, based on her upbringing, I guarantee you she has real pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being raised without your dad and have a mom who's a heroin addict, that is going to mess you up, and that's going to cause some real internal subconscious trauma, 100%. Is she doing this interview to get attention? Probably, so to some degree. Is she dramatizing some parts to get more attention? Possibly. Let's face it, 8 years in therapy happens all the time with normal therapy.
Yeah.
You know, I won't say most people do that, but I'll say some people do that. Absolutely. And my belief is she's not all the way better. My belief, she still has trauma, because, you know, I've been through that system. Trauma like hers is not going to get completely fixed with CBT. It just won't.
I don't think
it might be partially mitigated. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think she said she's been going through therapy for 8 years. The criticism was she's been saying, I have completed therapy for 8 years, saying that she's at the end of it for 8 years.
I don't think she's at the end.
And repeat, like, but that's where people are skeptical whether or not she's genuine about this, is because she's been saying, I have completed my journey for the last 8 years. And that's so, so we'll get into that in the clip.
Yeah, we'll watch the clip. I think but listen, when she's talking about her shame and everything, that is completely on point with someone with her background, how they would feel and what would happen. So
it is.
I do believe that part. Maybe she is grandstanding, saying things a certain way for attention, but there's not going to be, you're raised without your dad and your mom's a heroin addict. There's not going to be any way you're not feeling significant shame. That's
I think you can,
unless you're a sociopath and you've just totally shut it all down, or you're a psychopath. Yeah, that could happen. You know, but then you're a sociopath.
Still say the right things and still not entire. Like, I don't think those are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get into it.
Well, we'll let you guys decide.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're gonna play this a little on fast because hopefully we can get through 20 minutes on 1 1/4 speed. We'll see. Let's go and just when you want me to pause, let me know, Jordan.
All right.
Here we go.
Those suicidal thoughts. Yes, something needed to die, but it wasn't me physically.
What was it?
It was the thoughts around myself, how I felt about myself that I had to rehabilitate.
Wow.
And I'm still rehabilitating. I just was in so much.
So she does say she's still healing. She's not saying she's all better. Just want to point that out.
Denial, and I felt like together. You have everything. How dare you? And I was like just looking for cliffs.
Wow.
You know, looking for places that I could just drive my car off. And I was like, all right, it's got to be high enough that I don't survive.
So what have you learned about healthy boundaries over the last few years?
I used to think that unconditional love was unconditional tolerance.
Oh,
And it is not.
what is the thing about Will you're most proud of him and love about him the most?
You know, he,
I think you gotta have a dream.
the school of greatness.
All
Looking
right,
over a cliff,
just a little.
asking yourself, you know, am I going to be able to survive? Specifically, even more that has come up in the last year and a half with you that we were just talking about. And your book is so empowering and inspiring because you open up about everything. You go in there, and in the first opening of the book, you captivated me. You caught my attention because you talk about the success, the fame, the accolades, but also a story about looking over a cliff, asking yourself, you know, am I going to be able to survive if I actually drove off this cliff?
Right.
Talking about decades of depression, stress, anxiety. But on the outside, everything looks like you've got it put together and things are perfect.
By the way, that's how a lot of, I'm not saying she's full-blown MPD, but that's how they are. They look perfect on the outside, inward they're tortured. That's it's very common. We'll keep going.
And you're succeeding at the highest level.
Yeah.
But on the inside,
That's Kurt Cobain. That's Marilyn Monroe. That's Robin Williams. They're doing fantastic outwardly. Inwardly, they are just tortured.
you were facing a lot of depression and what sounds to be a lot of darkness.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how can someone with that much success, fame, money, and what seems like the perfect marriage and family dynamic struggle so much internally? How does it get to that place?
Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the biggest false perceptions is that all of those exterior things can heal, you know, your traumas, you know, can heal what's happening on the inside. I thought the same thing. I asked myself the same question. How can you have all this going on for yourself and feel like this? Right. And I felt so much shame about it, which compacted what was happening to me. And everybody else around me was asking the same question. What is wrong with you? You have everything. Right. And so I tell a story when I'm 21 and how I basically have a nervous breakdown. That was the first time where I was so overwhelmed by these dark emotions that came over me that those suicidal thoughts just flooded in. And I thought that I remember having to call my mother and said, "Mommy, get out here now or I'm going to kill myself."
Wow.
You know? And my mother at that time was fresh in her, recovery, right? And
Recovery from being a heroin addict while Jada was growing up.
so she had to figure out a couple of things, you know, as far as work, because she, you know, she's just getting on her feet, she's nursing, what have you. So then I called my girlfriend, MC Light, and I said, Light, I need you right now. I don't feel safe with myself.
You're 21 at this point.
I'm 21 at this point, and Light came out immediately just to hold me down until my mother could get there. And I, from that point on, never really, you know, during that time, no one was really talking about, first of all, suicide. Surely not in the Black community. That is like, what?
It's like toughen up and
Yeah, like get it together. And it just wasn't heard of. It's like, oh, then you really belong in the cuckoo house. You know what I mean?
Depression was not talked about.
Depression was not talked about, you know? And it's so funny how it shows up in our community. Like I always tell people, like, you know, that angry Black woman syndrome that people talk about. I said, nah, that's a lot of despair.
This rings true to me. Listen to this, because she's talking about the connection between despair, shame, all that crap, and anger, which is going to lead you to lash out and hurt people. And she's done other stuff. Like, I don't think she did adultery because of anger. But despair can lead to anger, rage, which can lead you to really cause a lot of other people pain. Let's see the connection. Here we go.
That's a lot of despair. That anger basically comes into the picture because it's the anger that keeps you going.
Anger is dirty fuel. If it's trapped, there's times where it's totally appropriate. Someone's beating your friend up, you get angry, beat up the guy who's beating up your friend, defend your friend, totally appropriate. But she's talking about trapped, internalized anger, resentment, rage, all of that. It sucks, but it feels better than this despair and shame. It feels more powerful. Anything to add, Jordan?
I think maybe she just said it, or she said it. What I liked was anger is sort of, I think anger, prevents, like, I guess, self-deletion, if we want to be YouTube say, because if you're angry, you want to fight. Like, I think it's when you feel hopeless.
Anger's empowering. It's like, I'm going to do something.
And that's why and that's why we've done shows on rumination, why we're still angry about something, is because it feels empowering to rehash those old feelings now, from having separated yourself through time. Like, if you can go back and kind of replay that, you have power over it. You can control. Maybe you imagine how scenarios might have been different. Maybe you imagine what you would have said in this scenario, like, instead of how you actually reacted. And so, which is ironic, because that's kind of what we do in hypnosis, is we almost reframe or reprogram the old triggering events. But the point was that anger is it gives you the feeling of, I am righteous, I have some power. And so that's why that can be difficult to let go of, because
anger's gone. What do you have now? Despair, depression, these self-deleting thoughts. And she's already talked about shame, depression, all these things. Anger sucks, but it feels better than those things. And our brain, above all, wants us to avoid pain, including emotional pain, probably especially emotional pain. Depends on the situation. And above all, our brain wants us to avoid feeling ashamed. Toxic shame. This is the core reason for addiction. This is why her mom was a heroin addict. Her mom got pregnant, and then the dad left, and now he's not even in their life. And now she's, and whatever her mom went through in her. Why did the mom get pregnant in high school? A woman who has parents who love and guide her is probably not going to do that. They'll be like, wear a condom, guy. They're not going to be so needy for validation that they'll get into situations like that. So, you see already multi-generational issues between the mom and the daughter. And she's already talked about all the shame, depression, everything she feels. What anger feels better than that. So if that's what we have to do to avoid pain, your brain's going to go to anger. But now, what projection is stuff in us we project onto the world, especially if we don't want to face what's in us. And this is, you see the victim attitude in society. Oh, everyone needs to cater to me because I'm a victim, and you guys need to make it right. And that's a great way to avoid responsibility. But they feel hopeless. So what else are they going to do? So Ruben, welcome to the show. Mike Horton, welcome to the show. So we are showing how trauma actually leads people who are hurting inside to hurt others. So you see, like, these incredibly toxic people, you definitely don't want to get in relationships with them. You got to protect yourself. But there is a reason that they the people, BPD, whatever, NPD, sociopath, whatever, there's a reason they behave so terribly, and we're picking it apart right here. All right, we'll keep.
It does seem. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm wondering if her answers are. She's thought about this before, and so maybe she's just. I don't know. There's something.
There's something very well rehearsed about how she's.
That's the word. I didn't want to call it well rehearsed, because I'm like, maybe this is genuine, but there does seem to be, like, she's told this story before. I mean, but like,
she's promoting her book, and why does she want to, like, broadcast this to the world? But I do think her pain is real. I mean, it's documented. Mom is a heroin addict. Dad wasn't around to at all raising her.
I think the pain is real. I'm wondering if she has figured out how to, I don't say monetize, but she's figured out how to market it so that, like, I'm trying to ask myself is like, do people who have gone through the same things speak the way she's speaking? And I'm
well,
trying
she's
to
a Hollywood
decide-
actress, among other things. So
right, and that's a good point. I didn't think about is that she is an actress, so she does know how to present very, like, you watch her hand gestures or facial expressions. She does know how to emote and be. So maybe there's some, maybe that's what I'm noticing is her acting is rubbing off. So it's hard to.
Well, and what's the payoff here for her? Oh, you're so brave coming out, sharing this with the world. So she's getting validation, attention. She's increasing book sales too. So we'll keep that in mind. Again, we're not just gonna entirely go along with her narrative, but we're kind of picking this apart and saying, listen, her trauma is real, man. I show you the Wikipedia entry that all that stuff is documented, and that type of upbringing is going to cause pain like this. It will.
So,
go ahead. I
was gonna say that if Lewis pushed her on her definitions of stuff a little harder, like Doug, I don't think Lewis really digs that deep in this interview.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if he pushed her on these concepts a little harder, would she still be able to back it up? That's what I notice about when people come on podcasts and they've got sort of their stump speech, the things they want to talk about.
I'd love for her to be on Joe Rogan. He pushed a little harder.
And just to go a little off script and to see, does she, because it's hard for me to get a read if it's all, like, there seems to be she's a very interesting case because part of it does seem genuine. Part of it seems like she's acting, but can she still act and be genuine at the same time? I'm trying to balance those. And what would convince me that she was genuine is if Lewis pushed her a little harder with more specific questions to make her have to think on her feet a little more. Because it seems like she's given these answers before. And if she had to think on her feet, that's why, there's a certain candidate that I kind of like who.
Well, I mean, let's face it. We've done sessions for hundreds of people, and the trauma we see is very similar from these backgrounds, very similar to what she's talking about.
Yeah, but we also see how people describe that. And so we've had these conversations over and over again. And so we can kind of tell that might be why she's sort of rubbing these kind of the wrong way, is because I've talked with people who have these problems and I know how they express them. And it's slightly different. So.
Okay, let's keep going. Yep, our average client is not a highly trained Hollywood actor, but we'll keep going.
Right.
Right? Because you can't go into the despair because the despair will take you out. Right? We don't have that luxury because we got to put food on the table. We got to keep it moving. Right? And so, for a lot of us, we're single moms or what have you. And so I'm not a single mother, so I shouldn't say a lot of us. I'm thinking about.
But her mom was a single mother.
About my mother and my experience of being raised by a single mother. Right? And so, and for me, I think that I had a lot of that and I have a lot of that, which is why even to this day, it's very difficult. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, you have a lot of PTSD and a lot of trauma. And I said, it's still very difficult for me to embrace that as true.
I think she has complex PTSD. That's children with heavy childhood abuse. They have CPTSD, even worse. We'll keep going.
But I don't know if she's telling the truth there because she's on this podcast talking about it. So she knows it's.
I think the evidence that it's true is not only her family background, but the shit she's pulled in her family through the year. An emotionally healthy person, a person who is not a tortured soul, would not do the shit she did to Will Smith and everyone else. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't be highly manipulative, controlling, shaming, drama, having affairs, all that stuff. An emotionally healthy person, especially married to a high-value alpha who unfortunately has, been more and more emasculated by her over the years. They wouldn't pull that crap. And because an emotionally healthy person would see, long-term, that is not in my best interest. You know, it's people lashing out from this trauma in them. You got trauma in you. You're going to traumatize those around you. That's how it works.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I meant I don't know if I believe her when she says she doesn't believe that she said she doesn't. It's hard for her to accept
maybe
she has trauma.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that she struggles with accepting her own trauma. Like, I don't, because first of all, she's on this podcast talking about it.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't think she's fully recovered. Yeah, no way.
Maybe she meant, now let's be charitable and say maybe she meant at the time she was struggling, when she was, I think she was describing her in her 20s. Maybe at the time she was struggling with accepting it, but now
Jordan, do you think her trauma's not real? You think she's making it all up?
No, that wasn't the point I was making, is whether or not she accepts it as real. Like, I don't think she's making it up, but she's saying because she just said, I'm struggling with accepting that it was even there.
Okay.
But I'm like, I don't believe that. Maybe when she was 20, she struggled to like accept that these things had happened to her. But now, after she wrote a book about it and she's on all these podcasts, I don't think she is struggling. I'm skeptical to whether or not she is struggling with actually accepting that these things happened to her. Like, is that clear?
And why would she why would she not struggle with it and then say she is?
Right. That's what I don't quite follow.
Okay, we'll keep going.
You know what I mean? And so
I don't know what you mean.
I just was in so much denial. And I felt like how you felt and how many people feel, which is like, get it together. You have everything. How dare you? Wow. And not only that, look at all these people who are still in the struggle. They don't feel like this.
And they don't have what you have.
They don't have what you have. How dare you?
Right. So it's almost more shame.
It's more shame.
Sorry, I keep interrupting, but like, that's where I think a little bit of her acting is coming in.
She's dramatizing it, but this is very typical of wealthy or very successful people. Yeah. They're like, I should be feeling great. Why am I so miserable? And the lesson here is outward success does not fix inner trauma. It doesn't make you happy. Temporarily, it can make you feel good, but that's about it.
I agree with like what she's saying. I'm only pointing out that I think she's dramatized. I don't disagree that happens. I think she's the way she's presenting the information is I see a little bit of her acting coming out a little bit.
Okay.
That was only my thought. I don't disagree with the point she's making that people who they feel shame for even feeling not good enough, right? That absolutely happens. I mean, I felt that, but my point was this is why I'm struggling to take her a little seriously, is because seems like she's maybe adding emphasis to try and make like it's subtle, but do people really talk like that? That's what I'm asking.
What we're focusing on this show is how hurt people who hurt others are hurting inside. So, how does her being fake? Why do you think she is being fake? Why do you think she is partially sincere and partially putting up a facade? You know, what's up with that? Why would you do that?
Well, I think you said it earlier. I think she's trying to sell her book. She's trying to communicate it. And that's the thing. I also don't think that, and this is so multi-layered, like I think some people will listen to her and actually resonate with what she's saying.
Yeah.
I think multiple things can be true at the same time. She can embellish and act a little bit and still have a correct message and still help people. And I can still think maybe doesn't always believe everything she's saying. Like, I think. Do
you think she's a person who's wounded, traumatized, hurting inside, who's hurting others?
I do. She's clearly that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
It's like they're not mutually exclusive. They can be true at the same time.
No, they're very. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. This is. I don't think she has full-blown NPD. I mean, I don't know. We're watching one interview. Maybe she is a full-blown narcissist. I don't think so. But this is kind of a narcissistic trait to project this image outwardly that you have it together, you're awesome, you're perfect, you're very charming and charismatic, and then inwardly you are just an absolute mess. That is again, I don't think she's full-blown NPD, but that is the epitome of people with narcissistic personality disorder. Deep insecurities, deep trauma, and they put on this sheen of perfection that they project to the outside world because they're trying to keep anyone from seeing. They're so ashamed of all the trauma in them and how they feel about themselves. They're running as far away from that as possible. And so they project this perfect image to the world because they don't want anyone to know, all their shame and trauma. They're trying to hide it, and they're actually trying to run away from it as much as they can. Now, what's very interesting here is she's talking about internal trauma while kind of projecting this, I have it together, very composed, charismatic, outer, projection to the world. And that's very interesting. I don't think she would talk about her trauma if she is full-blown NPD, but there's some NPD elements here or some narcissistic elements here. Absolutely. She talks much more about herself than the damage she's done to her family by far. Like, I don't even think she doesn't look remorseful at all. If you watch this, when, talk about Will, there's very little she talks about that overall.
That's a very good point, is that it's the lack of, that might be one of the reasons why I'm struggling. And I really glad you brought that up. That's maybe one of the reasons I'm struggling to take her seriously, is because she doesn't appear to feel sorry for the things she's actually done. She's saying the right things.
Well, she's in so much pain. She's self-absorbed and really not able to consider others' pain. She has so much of her own.
Very interesting case study. She's she's definitely a lot to break down about her. So we'll keep going. But this perfect sheen you see of a traumatized person, that is narcissism 101 right there.
Yeah. Right. And so, and it took me years to realize that doesn't have anything to do with it.
Wow.
But I struggled and beat myself up for a long time, to the place that I just got to, like, kid, I want out.
Out of what?
Out of life.
Wow.
I don't want to be here anymore.
How old are you then?
40. My 40th year.
40. So
I think she's 51 now.
Just turned 40 this year.
Yes.
So your 40th was like essentially 2 decades of stress, anxiety, depression, shame, overwhelm, guilt, but also on the outside looking like you had it all together. All the success and the relationship and the fame and movies and TV and all these different things, right?
Yes.
So 40 was a time where you felt like, I want out of all of it.
All of it again, because I had been struggling with suicidal thoughts for a long time, and
but you never thought about actually attempting it.
Well, I think at 40, I was just like, okay, I got my plan. I started looking at like where I could, because I didn't want my kids to think that I had taken my life. So I was like, how do I plan an accident?
That's crazy.
And I was like just looking for like cliffs.
Wow.
Looking for places that I could just drive my car off of. And I was like, all right, it's got to be high enough that I don't survive, And
I'll make one observation here, Jordan, as she's talking about this. She has kind of the actress sheen, I have it together, but not really connecting to the traumatic emotions in her while she's talking about this. There's some disconnection there. You see the look on this guy's face. He's like, oh man, this was so terrible. And wow, oh my goodness. And she just kind of like, has kind of like almost this robotic, charisma. Does that make sense? So she's pretty disconnected right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny you mentioned that, because I feel like Lewis Howell has the same reaction to literally everything.
True.
He does. He's got the same.
We'll keep going. I was just gonna point that out. We'll keep going.
And so once I devised my plan, I was like, okay. And as morbid as that sounds, having a plan gives you like, okay, let me see what tomorrow looks like, because I got my plan.
Wow.
And when I turned 40, it was like I never imagined reaching 40.
Really?
Never imagined reaching 40. So not only was I dealing with all this depression, what have you, but I didn't see a vision for my life past 40. It was just blank.
Interesting.
I had no drive. I had no desire. And I was just like, and when I tell you, like, I would look down that road of like, okay, what is life for you now? When I tell you I saw nothing. And that was scary too.
Wow. Why do you think you didn't have a vision after 40?
I never thought that I would make it. This is a really unfortunate
Like
thing,
make
but
it as in your career, make it in your relationship,
life,
make it in life, like survive life.
Survive life.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like there had been so many people that I loved that didn't make it.
Right.
You know, and I was just like, okay, my day was like, and as crazy it sounds, you're thinking, you live high, you live fast, and then life's done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like something's gonna happen. And I was like, yo, you made it to 40? What? You know what I mean? It's like you made it to 40 and I didn't see anything.
Wow. What was that like on your 40th birthday when you were celebrating or you were reflecting on your life for the last decade? Usually we reflect on the last year. It's a decade we're reflecting on, but it sounds like you were reflecting on your life.
It was really hard. That was a really, really difficult time. And I remember Will had, he had like put together this huge party, you know, because Will loves, he loves to eventize everything.
Yeah,
He's just, you know, he loves building memories. And I remember having to tell him
10 minutes in before she even mentions Will.
I can't. I didn't have it. I didn't have it in me to pretend. I didn't have it in me to be around people that I didn't have it, you know? And I was in really bad shape. What
were the thoughts that were on repeat during that time? What would you think to yourself or say internally or out loud about you to you?
It was really, you know what? It was really just having the energy to every day waking up was doomsday. It was like, you know, it was just like, it was like having to it was the worst part of my day.
Waking up. Holy cow.
And getting
this, I believe,
out of the bed. You know, it was like having like,
because I've had days like this.
Yeah, that was going to be my question is people, because I haven't gone through quite what she's gone through. That was what I'm asking is does this sound like a real story or not? I don't know.
It rings true to me because I've been through stuff like this, you know, with my trauma. I had very, very severe depression and it rings true to me. The whole point I'm showing you guys this show is everyone knows Jada has screwed up her family. She's committed adultery, you know, highly manipulative. There's, you know, what kind of family environment drives Will Smith to just go up and smack a man, right? You know, that's also part of his background, you know,
that's kind of on him.
His upbringing. So it's not just all her, but I guarantee you that's part of it.
He chose her.
Yeah. Why did he choose her? Well, because of his trauma. He talks about his upbringing and he has trauma. And this is actually what attracts a lot of people to Hollywood is they feel not good enough. And then they say, I know I'm going to get rich and famous and everyone will love me and I'll be good enough. And, you know, right here, you see someone who hit the hypergamous jackpot. You know, she's famous in her own right. She's had acting roles, you know, on, AAA movies or whatever, TV shows, etc. in her own right. She is married to one of the most famous, wealthy, handsome, you know, athletic, you know, for most of his life, athletic, you know, good-looking guys, and she's miserable. So, you know, first moral lesson is outward success does not create inward happiness, but also if any of you guys have people in your life that bully you, intimidate you, control you, manipulate you, shame you, they're you know, they have BPD tendencies, they have they're severely codependent, so they're just like you know, super clingy, or they're addicts, or any of this, you know, stuff where people are like intentionally or unintentionally hurting each other. This is why, because this lady is barely getting by. She's doing anything she can. Her internal pain is so great, she's doing anything she can to cope. And so she has, you know, when you grow up with trauma, you grow up in this very unstable environment and you're worried about threats all the time. Like, you know, is this person going to bully me? Is my parent going to, is mom going to come home high, and then the cops bust in and arrest her and drag her away, and it's like, who's going to take care of me now because mom's in jail, or just whatever the hell goes on, stuff like that. You're going to bring that into adulthood, and now you have to manipulate and control. Or, hey, here's this handsome young stud. I feel good when I'm around him, and my normal life is absolute torture. Let's have an affair. To just get a little bit of happiness, a little bit of a break from her exhausting, tortured life. Let's get a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of a relief, a little bit of, oh, he's validating me, this younger guy. It makes me feel good about myself. And so much pain, so much self-torture there. Let's have an affair to get a moment of feeling good, because the rest of her life is miserable. I know exactly I haven't had an affair. I've never been married. But I know exactly what this feels like. And this is why people become addicts. Their main life is so absolutely miserable that they just want to forget about it for a while. Let's get blackout drunk. Let's take some drugs or just whatever. That could be porn, or food, comfort food. It makes me feel good. And I need that. These people need it because their normal life is torture. They need some sort of relief. And so they'll do all these damaging things just to get a little bit of relief because they're really just barely hanging on. This absolutely rings true to me. So we'll watch a little more, but any comments?
No, I can keep going.
Yeah. Hurt people hurt others.
Yeah.
Not all people who are hurting are going to hurt others, but people who have those tendencies to hurt others, this is why.
Like 3 Mack trucks and chains to my shoulders, just like, come on, you can do it, come on. It's like, and just like, how am I going to get through this day?
Right. Because
trauma is exhausting. I used to sleep 9 hours a day, and I'd work 6 or 7 hours and be just tired from 6-7 hours of work. It's like, I want to take a nap now.
Kids were probably in their almost teenagers or something around then, or early teens.
The kids were like preteens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had challenges that they're dealing with in adolescence and figuring out life, and
but they were pretty easy. Thank God.
Wow, that's good.
You know what I mean? Like they were like easy, and at that time,
sure.
and
so your biggest enemy sounds like it was
my biggest enemy was me, and just really and people around me knew something was wrong, but they just couldn't put their finger on it. Like they couldn't understand, like, what the hell is going on with you? But it was clear that I was not happy, and it wasn't just like, I'm not happy. It was like, I wasn't happy. Like I couldn't, but people just didn't have any understanding. We weren't talking about mental health issues at
even
that
then.
point.
Yeah, when you were 40, no one was talking about it publicly.
Yeah.
Oprah wasn't even talking about it. Really. It's like Oprah's not talking about it. It's like
it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. So, did you feel like people were there for you though, like in your relationships or Will? Did you feel like I had supportive friends and family members who were showing up for me, but I just wasn't able to get out of my depression or sadness?
I don't know if people really knew how to. I'd have girlfriends go, "Hey, what's wrong? You're not yourself. You can talk to me." I didn't know how to talk.
So you weren't communicating.
I didn't know how to communicate. You know what I mean?
What's ironic is when she's down, that is herself. The rest of the time she's putting on an act. And then they're like, you're not yourself. It's like, that's actually what's in her. But we'll keep going.
And so even like when people are
it's like, you're not your normal fake self where you pretend to be happy. Yeah. Go ahead.
Dealing with people who are depressed, or you have people who've attempted suicide, or unfortunately people who actually do succeed. I didn't know. And I'm like, I get it. Because a lot of times you don't know what's going on with you. You don't know how to communicate. And you have so much shame.
And fear.
Yeah.
Shame. Toxic shame. That's the core of what screws everything up. Toxic shame. That's what's going to cause the anger, to get away from it. All this other stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Jordan.
And like when your baseline is way down here, like you sense I could tell she sensed something was wrong, but she didn't know how to describe what it was. And that's what we often will help clients do, is they know clients that come to us, they can, like, I was one of them, a client came to you all those years ago. And I was like, I sensed something was wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I didn't really, and that can be that can be half the battle sometimes, just identifying what it is.
Yeah.
And then, we can use our techniques to clear it. But I think I believe her when she says that, where she says, I knew something was strange. Oh, hey, what's up, Tim?
Yeah.
And,
yeah, he's on the plane on his way to his cruise, man. Good for you, Tim.
Nice.
Can't be on the show today because he's going to paradise.
Yeah, I think that is a common experience with people who, if that's your baseline, you might not even see that you could feel a different way, but you sense something's wrong. But that can be the chink in the armor, right? If you're feeling so bad, but then you realize maybe something is wrong, at least that's the first spark a lot of the times to recognizing that, okay, if you realize something is wrong, then you realize there must be something that is right, conversely, right? That there could be something that is, I shouldn't say, I don't know, right, but just something that could be better.
Yeah.
And then,
like in the Matrix, there's a sliver in the back of your mind,
right.
Right. It's like, you can't quite put your finger on it. Neo had no idea what the Matrix was, but he knew something was off,
Yeah.
And
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
The whole reason I have a YouTube show, the whole reason I do sessions for others, MindChrysalis, all of that. Well, I mean, I do sessions to help people, but man, I see people like this, and it's like, if they only knew the stuff we got, how much it could help them. Yeah. If they only knew. And I want to take this as big as I can, change the world. We'll do the best we can. But I know I absolutely 100%, 100,000% believe in the techniques that we are using, because they can so massively, help fix this toxic shame, anger, resentment, all that stuff, anxiety, all that stuff. Now, we're not medical professionals, so I never take the angle of I'm going to treat your schizophrenia or manic depression or any other diagnosable mental illness, anything like that. Really, what we do, though, is we get you to let go of all this crap, get it out of you, and teach you to unconditionally believe in your ability and value, especially your value for who you are. All that shame goes away. We really at a deep core level, as well as a surface level, teach people to learn how to unconditionally love themselves and let go of stuff that's messing them up. That's all we do. Mm-hmm. So, and damn, she needs it. I see people all the time who are struggling, and it's like, I wish I could help that person, but how can I communicate to them so that they'll actually believe that what I'm doing is so powerful? Because I can tell them, and they're like, yeah, right. It's like, man, if you only knew, So that's why we have this show, to get the message out. And hopefully, well, I know there are people who believe. There are people who do sessions, and then they get so much better. And we, like, literally, I've changed hundreds of lives. Hundreds of people were miserable, and now they're happy. So I know, we're going to keep doing the work. I just have this wish that it's like, man, I hope I can get this bigger and bigger. So someday people like her are going to know, they're not going to not know that there isn't a solution out there. They're going to know the solution is out there. That's my goal. Jada, anyone, you know what? I heard of this thing, I want them to say, I did hear of this thing that people are doing that's really promising. I want them to have that awareness so that they can come and not suffer anymore,
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's what we want to, take it to. We got the techniques. We just got to get the awareness out. So
you can keep going for a little longer if you want.
Yeah, we'll go for a little bit longer, maybe 5 more minutes, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Oops. Hello.
No, and you just don't know how. And I was a high functioning, person suffering from depression. Nobody was, and that was also confusing.
Because I'm succeeding here. I'm crushing
succeeding.
Yeah.
I'm getting up. I'm not in a corner balled up. Like, people think depression is just, you're in a corner balled up. You can't get up. You don't want to get out of bed. Of course, I had those feelings, but I got out of bed.
What drove you to get up and get out of bed? And
my kids.
So they at least gave you the purpose and vision.
My
daily.
Kids gave me purpose. They kept me going.
Her kids, who she messed up, but hey,
I mean, I believe her.
Probably did motivate her, though.
I believe her.
I believe her too.
Yeah,
she just traumatized. She's traumatized as hell, and she's gonna spread it to her kids. Because that's what traumatized people do. They're toxicity in them just leaks out all over the place. You know, it's unfortunate. We'll keep going.
If you didn't have your kids,
I didn't have my if I didn't have my kids, I don't think I'd have made it through those dark times.
Wow.
Yeah, no. I can honestly say that.
Wow.
Yeah. They kept me going.
In your book, again, it's amazing how much you open up. The whole thesis is about worthiness, becoming worthy, owning your worthiness. You talked about, I think it was like you met with all the shamans, all the nuns, all the priests. Like you went through any spiritual leader you could find, any practice, any philosophy, you tried it. Yeah.
Anything.
From all those, workshops and exercises and one-on-one conversations.
This was me too. I never did ayahuasca or anything, but just trying all these different therapists on the internet, scouring for different solutions until I found what I found and fixed it. So this is very, very typical of people who are suffering. They're just trying to find anything that's going to work, and they'll try a lot of dumb stuff that doesn't work, but hey, they're desperate.
Ceremonies.
Yes, and howling at the moon, whatever it is you're doing, What was the biggest awakening for you with all those experiences? What was the reoccurring theme that kept kind of whispering or speaking to you as a reminder of what you needed to know or hear?
So I knew that there was a higher power. I knew that. I didn't have I was like, I just needed to figure out how to get access to it. I know it's there. Study the Bible for 3. I'm talking about backwards and forwards.
Really?
I studied it from a historical point of view. I studied as a theologian. I tried defining those, like the mysticism of Christianity, which I'm still into.
Sure.
And I was like, but I don't know God.
Wow.
Like, I don't have a personal relationship with God. Like, I'm not God. I'm not feeling you.
You didn't feel that connection.
I didn't feel the connection. I understood where Islam was created, Judaism, Christianity, Sufism, Sikhism, you name it, all, because I love religion anyway. But I was like, that knowledge wasn't giving me the connection. There's a difference in the intellect, understanding the theories, understanding how things are developed versus being immersed and absorbed in that spiritual energy.
So this also rings true to me as well. I was raised in a very strict religious family, and I will say, now this is just my experience. Maybe some other people, maybe that's cooler, huh? Maybe some other people, religion really helped them a lot, but religion didn't do jack. And I tried. I really, really tried to get religion to help me. Never, ever did any. Honestly, the way my religion was presented to me by my parents did a lot more harm than good. And I'm not saying that religion's bad. I'm not saying it doesn't help some people, but I can totally identify with you're studying all this religion, everything, and it doesn't do a lick to get you better. Again, some people have different experiences. Some people are like, oh, my religion, I found, Jesus, and that so helped me. And I'm not going to say that they're not sincere, but I exactly know how that feels. Maybe you have to take religion from a certain viewpoint, and I couldn't because it was presented to me so toxically by my parents. But man, it just didn't do anything for me. It didn't. And you can be extremely religious with zero spirituality. That rings true to me, what she's saying. You had anything to add, Jordan?
I think, but see, some people here's why she's not like, some people never even try and do that. At least she had something inside of her, and you had something inside of you.
We're searching for solutions.
But you at least believed at some level that you were worthy of finding a solution. You might not have felt worthy in other areas, but I think some people, why they struggle to even change.
I was in pain and wanted the pain to stop. And that's what I see her doing.
But you believe that
you were looking for.
You at least believed that you were worthy of having the pain to stop. I think some people feel trapped because they believe that the pain they deserve to a certain extent. They don't believe that they're worthy to get better. And so that's why she's that. And so there's different levels to this. The fact that she at least is going out and trying to get better. A lot of people, I think, get trapped. They do nothing to try and get better.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said for that.
That's my parents. It's very, I know people like that. I know people who it's like, man, I could help them. They know my sessions work. They see it helping other people. They won't do sessions because they don't want to face their pain.
And part of that could be also,
it is what it is.
Feel a fear of failure. They worry if they try and improve themselves and they fail, they will confirm what they suspect about themselves, that they're not good enough to feel good about themselves, right? So that,
what if I try and fail? Now I'm hopeless. There's no solution. I tried what I thought was a solution. It didn't work. Right. So I'm hopeless now. So they don't want to try it because they don't want to answer that question in the negative,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You want to keep going?
Yeah, we'll do that a little more.
You feel held and you feel that you.
She actually talks about ayahuasca, and I think it's interesting. I want to kind of comment on it because, ayahuasca and these psychedelics, there's a very interesting relationship between them and the subconscious. So let's see if we can get there.
And I went through a night of hell where I was confronted. I'm going to go.
She's talking about her ayahuasca trip. We'll go back like a minute.
Sure.
And then we'll say, hey, what's really going on here? What are these psychedelics like ayahuasca actually doing?
Different.
His energy.
His way of being, his presence. I need that.
I want that.
I want that.
She's talking about like this shaman dude who does ayahuasca.
Right? I need that light.
It was
clarity and it was light.
Interesting.
Right? I was like, I want that. And
by the way, that's why Tim became a hypnotherapist. Is he saw me in my trauma, and then we didn't meet for several years, and then we met up after I healed myself. And he's like, "What the hell happened to Ryan? He's totally different." Yeah. That made him become a hypnotherapist. He's like, whatever he did, I gotta learn it.
Asked for the universe to give me that, and within a month, the universe opened the door for me to have my own ceremony, and that's where the book, at the beginning, when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and do the ceremony. You know what I mean?
What was your experience? What opened up for you during that ceremony?
I got to see, first of all, and I'm not saying that this is a cure for anyone who's suffering what I was suffering, because I will say this. I don't believe that the plant ayahuasca is for everyone, right? That I just don't believe that, right? It has to be a real calling. And I went through a night of hell where I was confronted with the shadow of my own mind. I was confronted with those thoughts, and to the point that I thought that I was possessed.
Holy cow.
Right? So the thoughts are like, kill yourself. Do it.
Right
Nobody
now.
needs you. You're not needed. You're not wanted. Kill yourself. Right? And I mean, this is like bombarding me. And I can't escape these dark voices. Right? I will come to find out that I was confronting my internal voice of my lack of self-worth.
Wow.
Toxic shame.
Right? Deep, right?
Subconscious programs.
And yes, those voices can have energetic fields, right?
Subconscious trauma, toxic shame, all of that comes to the surface.
But that it was me. And I had to surrender the next night, because that was supposed to be my last night.
Right.
I was supposed to do 3 nights. And that was my last night. And I remember looking at the medicine woman that I was working with. And I said, I can't go home like this to my children. Whatever's on me, whatever this, energy, this demon, right?
You got to get off.
It's got to get off.
Yeah.
Right. And not realizing, no, that's you, boo. Right.
Wow.
But that next night when
Exactly. That's you. So here's the thing about ayahuasca psychedelics. Here's what it does. It makes your subconscious conscious. It fully connects you to it. And when people have, she had all this trauma that she was feeling, but she also has all these defense mechanisms, which is why she'll get angry or lash out or have an affair or addiction, whatever. I'm not saying she's an addict, but I'm saying a lot. People do all this to cope. People do all of this, or you can just disconnect and shut down to disconnect from this internal pain. So even though she had a lot of pain in her life with her coping methods and mechanisms, a lot which led to hurting others, it's given her some relief. But if you go on psychedelics, all that stuff's coming to the surface, and you're going to feel it full force. And so psychedelics can be life-changing for many people because oftentimes for the first time, they're getting to know the entirety of who they really are.
Yeah.
All this subconscious stuff from childhood, all these subconscious programs, all coming, boom, all the way to the surface into plain view. And I have been told by a guy who does ayahuasca ceremonies, he said, what you do, Ryan, is like a less intense but more beneficial ayahuasca ceremony, because we confront you with your pain, but then we actually get it out of you forever. Bad subconscious programs. That's what we do. And then we replace it with like unconditional self-love. You meet your inner child, you give your inner child love, all that stuff. And it changes lives. Ayahuasca is going to connect you to all that negative stuff. The majority of people, it doesn't release it. To some people, it does. Just by face-to-face with it, they can release trauma. But from my experience, people doing ayahuasca, it gives them a lot of awareness. But
yeah,
it's not ideal for releasing trauma. It's just introducing you face-to-face, in your face, with these dark parts of you or whatever else is in your subconscious. It's all coming to the surface with ayahuasca, and that's exactly what she's talking about. So she is feeling the full force of her childhood trauma and all the shame and maladaptive beliefs that arose by, things happen as a child, and she adopted all these beliefs. She was worthless. She wasn't good. Why isn't mom here? Well, I must not be worth her being around, or mom criticizing and shaming her, or just whatever happened,
I wonder if, because I think my interpretation of that is it's sort of just revealing what's already there. Like she said, it was
100%.
It's not. It's not. It's part of her, and I don't think those ayahuasca is going to show you something that's not part of you.
Yeah, it's all in you. It's just showing
revealing
you what's down there. You may or may not partially release some of it with ayahuasca. What we do is way more beneficial because it's way better at releasing and getting rid of bad trauma and putting good stuff in. I
mean, identifying it is sometimes just seeing it clearly and then recognizing this isn't part of me you can release it. But I think, just looking at it is only half the battle. You do have to eventually reprogram it, release it, reframe it. You do have to.
That's what we do. We get you connected to this stuff so we can get it out of you, and then it's gone. So, and I'm not saying one session fixes everyone's trauma. Some people, one session is absolutely life-changing. A lot of people like that. Doesn't mean we fix everything, but we'll find a chunk and then it's gone forever, and you're going to notice a difference. The vast majority of people, that's how it is. There's a few people we can't help, just to be straight up. A few people we can't help. Most people we can. So I think that's pretty good stopping point for today. Is there anything final you want to say, Jordan?
I think she's a neat case study because she has the layers. I think I'm glad we talked about her on the show today, because I think she is showing she is a tortured soul, and she is still, I think she still is, but she's saying some of the things that are healing, which are, it's very multi-layered. And I think it's interesting to analyze, because I think some people will just, she's just such a bad person. She cheated, all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's more nuanced than that. Like I think you have to look at it through the appropriate lens. And I think the hypnosis lens, we look at it through the subconscious programs. I think that's the best lens to look at it through, because it's more complete.
Yeah, 100%. And the moral of the story for today is, if you see someone who's an addict, who's morbidly obese, who's a bully, who's incredibly manipulative, critical of others, BPD, adulteress, and narcissist, whatever, sociopath, whatever, guess what? This is what's at the core. And, she's done a lot of damage to her family. And, that's all well documented. The interview with Will Smith, publicly talking about her affair and just all that stuff. Well, this is why she did it. And so whether you think someone, oh, look at this 300-pound person, they're a loser, or look at this terrible sociopath and all the crap he does, all of them. This is established science. I'm not pulling this out of my butt. Psychology knows this. They are all have this deep trauma, and the way they are acting is them trying to cope with and manage the pain, or disconnect from it, or not feel it, or whatever. They're doing it for their emotional survival. That doesn't mean I'm going to go up. You don't go up to a bear and give him a hug because he's hurting inside. If I see a sociopath, I'm staying the hell away from that person. And if I need to, if he threatens me, I'm going to give him a strong warning and then honestly get the hell out of there. You have boundaries, protect yourself. Hey, if someone's beating your friend up, beat the shit out of the guy beating your friend up. Defend your friend. There's sometimes in the name of self-defense or protecting ourselves, we may have to hurt others who are trying to hurt us in the name of defense. I'm all for that. I'm not for like, oh, look at this poor person, I'll just let them, take advantage of me. It's like, no, get the hell out of there. But it's not useful to just write them off as a loser, a piece of crap, whatever. We're trying to get you insight into what is it that drives people to do this. When I understood that, my MPD mom, she had a very, very, very abusive childhood. And when I understand that she was doing it because she was a tortured soul and because of her childhood, which was not her fault at all. She was just a kid when the stuff happened that turned her into a narcissist. It really helped me forgive her. At that point, just forgave her. I'm like, I get it now. So that's our show for today. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps you guys see the rest of the iceberg that's underwater, so you have a deeper understanding of the human condition. But if you guys are struggling with this stuff, there is a way to let go of your trauma, to get it out, to learn to deep down unconditionally love yourself, believe in yourself and your value. And when you get that, it changes everything, and you have the power to do it. You have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.